The city of Rome, once the beating heart of an empire, lay under a gray winter sky, its walls scarred by centuries of war, neglect, and betrayal. The streets, once filled with the thunder of legions, now echoed with the cries of the hungry and the weary shuffle of refugees. In the year 537 CE, Rome was no longer the seat of imperial glory, but a shadow of its past grandeur, yet for Belisarius, it was still a prize worth defending. And for the Gothic king Vitiges, it was a city worth reclaiming. When the Eastern Roman general Belisarius entered Rome in late 536 CE, the gates had been opened to him without a fight. The Gothic garrison, unprepared for his sudden arrival, had melted away. But victory had come too easily, and in war, an easy victory often hides a storm. Vitiges, furious at the loss of the Eternal City, gathered a massive army, by some accounts over 45,000 men, to crush the small Byzantine force that dared hold his capital. Belisarius commanded barely 5,000. The balance of numbers alone was enough to make most men retreat. But Belisarius was not most men. As the news of the approaching Gothic horde reached Rome, the city's mood shifted from relief to dread. Roman citizens, many of whom had grown used to Gothic rule, began to question whether the Eastern Romans could truly protect them. Rumors spread, some whispered that the Goths would slaughter the inhabitants for treachery, others claimed Belisarius would abandon them. Belisarius knew that fear was as dangerous as the enemy outside the walls. He moved through the streets himself, speaking to merchants, bakers, and even beggars. His voice was calm but resolute, reminding them that Rome had stood for centuries, had survived sack after sack, and would survive this siege too. His soldiers watched their general work not just as a commander of armies, but as a guardian of morale. To him, this was not just a military campaign, it was a battle for the spirit of Rome itself. When Vitiges' army finally arrived, their banners blackened the horizon. Siege engines rolled forward like monsters from another age, towering wooden contraptions, rams tipped with iron, catapults that could send stones crashing into the walls. They surrounded the city entirely, cutting off every road. The siege of Rome had begun. Inside, Belisarius moved with relentless energy. He ordered the repair and strengthening of the ancient Aurelian walls, some sections so decayed they were crumbling. He stationed archers and artillery at key points, creating kill zones where any Gothic assault would suffer devastating losses. Every man was put to work, soldiers, townsfolk, even monks. And yet, the challenge was not only physical. Supplies were limited. The city's grain was already low, and winter meant no harvests would replenish it. Belisarius had to make every loaf of bread stretch further than seemed possible. The first major test came when Vitiges ordered simultaneous assaults on multiple gates. The Gothic battering rams pounded at the Porta Salaria, while ladders went up along the northern walls. Arrows darkened the sky. The defenders fought with a desperation that surprised even the Goths. Belisarius was everywhere, riding along the walls, shouting encouragement, directing reinforcements, and even personally aiming the great Roman ballistae to smash Gothic siege towers. His presence turned the tide. That day, the walls of Rome held. But victory in defense often comes at a cost. The next weeks brought not only renewed Gothic attacks but the slow, creeping agony of hunger. Horses were slaughtered for food, weeds and roots became a delicacy. Water remained secure from the aqueducts, until Vitiges ordered them cut. Then, the city had to rely on wells, some of which were fouled by enemy sabotage. Disease began to spread among the weak and malnourished. Inside his headquarters, Belisarius faced a grim choice. He could try to break the siege with a direct attack, risking annihilation of his small army, or he could endure the slow strangulation, hoping reinforcements from Constantinople would arrive in time. He chose patience, but it was a gamble. He knew that every day he delayed, his men grew weaker, and the people's loyalty wavered. The Gothic king, frustrated by the city's stubborn resistance, tried psychological warfare. He sent envoys to offer the citizens their lives and property if they handed over Belisarius. The offer was tempting to many, but Belisarius' leadership had won him allies among the population. In an extraordinary act of defiance, the people refused the offer, swearing they would rather starve than betray him. Belisarius did not waste their loyalty. At night, he sent out small raiding parties to harass Gothic supply lines. His cavalry struck quickly, burning enemy provisions and capturing food that was smuggled back into Rome. Each successful raid lifted the spirits of the starving defenders. His strategy was not to crush the enemy outright, but to weaken them, make the siege costly enough that Vitiges would have to reconsider. After nearly a year of siege, the balance began to shift. The Goths, too, were running low on supplies. Their morale sank as disease spread in their camp. Finally, Byzantine reinforcements under the general Narses approached from the south. Vitiges, unable to take Rome and fearing encirclement, ordered the siege lifted. When the Gothic army withdrew, the gates of Rome opened, and the defenders, emaciated but unbroken, watched the enemy retreat. Belisarius had done what seemed impossible. He had held the Eternal City against overwhelming odds. For the citizens of Rome, the memory of that siege was more than just a chapter in history. It was proof that courage, discipline, and unity could overcome even the darkest storms. And for Belisarius, it was another testament to the truth he lived by, that victory belongs not always to the strongest but to those who refuse to yield.